Welcome to the Plow and Hearth Emergency Action Plan training. This training has been developed to ensure that Plow and Hearth associates are prepared for emergency situations. Please note that a written copy of the Emergency Action Plan is available to all employees. No one can predict exactly when or where emergencies will occur. It is important to be prepared to react to emergency situations at any time. In this training, we'll provide detailed instruction on the type of alerts and communication you can expect in the event of each emergency. Specifically, we will address what to do before, during, and after emergencies, such as medical emergencies, fires, severe weather, bomb threats, threatening situations, and active shooter. This training is expected to take approximately 20 minutes to complete. This training is not meant to raise alarm, but to encourage you to be prepared. Reviewing the plan for your location on a regular basis will help you remain calm, know what actions to take, and avoid injury. You may be able to help others who are not as prepared. You may even save a life. Part of emergency preparedness is knowing who to call to report an emergency. We encourage you to keep emergency phone numbers at your fingertips in case you ever need them. This may include posting them by your office phone or programming them into your cell phone. For fire or medical emergencies or an animal control emergency, the best number to call is 911. For non-emergencies, keep the Madison County and Virginia State Police and the Poison Control Center phone numbers on hand. Please be aware that in the event of a true emergency, your safety and the safety of your coworkers is number one priority. If the situation requires you to evacuate, please do so quickly and calmly first before worrying about calling the emergency phone number. Other important phone numbers are for utility and weather emergencies. For utility emergencies, you may contact the front desk as well as submit a maintenance request via email. For inclement weather, you may check the weather lines to find information about facility openings and closings. Among other things, the Employee Assistance Program may be a good resource following an emergency situation. It can provide services such as short-term counseling and referral for issues that are having an impact on your well-being. Experiencing an emergency can be traumatic. Please keep the Employee Assistance Program in mind. If an employee experiences a medical emergency such as heart attack or stroke, it is critical to act quickly. It is also important for you to know where the nearest first aid kit is located and know who the first responders are at Plow and Hearth. A first responder is trained in CPR, the AED, and basic first aid. If you do not know who the first responders are, locate a first responder list on a bulletin board nearby. If the medical emergency is beyond the care of a first responder, call 911 immediately. When you call 911, be prepared to provide the following information: nature of medical emergency, location of the emergency, and your name and phone number from which you are calling. Prior to the arrival of professional medical help, do not move the victim unless absolutely necessary. Also, ask someone to meet medical personnel at the building entrance and escort them to the scene. Most emergencies can be grouped into two categories: building evacuation or shelter in place. Certain circumstances may require building evacuation, while others may require shelter in place, meaning to take cover where you are. Let's start with evacuation procedures. First, determine the emergency escape route for your work location. To do so, locate an evacuation route map posted by your work area. Evacuation maps indicate emergency exits, primary and alternate evacuation routes, locations of fire extinguishers, and fire alarm pole stations. All employees should know at least 2 evacuation routes. If an alarm is sounded or instructions for evacuation are given, all employees and visitors must evacuate immediately according to their designated evacuation route. Employees should gather at their designated assembly point and make sure coworkers are accounted for. Make sure to let your supervisor know of any missing persons in suspected locations for unaccounted or injured people. Once the building has been evacuated, do not re-enter the building for any reason. You will remain at the designated assembly area until the fire department or emergency response agency notifies everyone that either the building is safe for re-entry or the building is not safe. If the building is not safe, then employees will be instructed how and when to vacate the premises. Now that we've discussed evacuation procedures, take a moment to think. Do you know what your primary escape route is? And if that escape route is blocked, how would you get out? Where would you go? Knowing your primary and secondary escape routes are both important, as well as knowing where your designated assembly point is located. If you don't know, your supervisor will be able to provide you with the information regarding evacuation routes and assembly points. Fire is the most likely scenario that may require building evacuation. Employees may be notified of a fire by the fire alarm system, although associates may also be contacted by email, voice communication, radio, phone paging, or by other means. In the event of a fire, evacuate immediately and follow these procedures. Stay calm and do not run. Close the doors behind you as you leave to prevent the spread of smoke and fire. Remember to notify others on your way out that there is a fire. Remember, do not use an elevator during a fire under any circumstances. Proceed directly to the designated assembly point outside of the building. Meet with your coworkers and other members of your department. If anyone is missing, tell a uniformed officer. While evacuating, if a door is closed, check the doorknob with the back of your hand. If it is hot, do not open it. If it is cool, open it slowly and check the hallway for smoke. If exposed to heat or smoke, stay low to the floor. If something blocks your way, look for an alternate exit or shelter in place and call 911 for help. Once you have evacuated, remain outside until the fire department grants permission to re-enter. As for fire extinguishers, employees should only fight the fire if it is small and only if you have been trained on how to use it. Untrained individuals may endanger themselves or those they are trying to rescue. If the employee cannot extinguish the fire, the employee should close all windows and doors without placing the fire between themselves and an escape path, and then evacuate the area. Please keep in mind that the first priority is the safety of employees and visitors. During certain emergency situations, it may be best to shelter in place rather than evacuate the building. Situations like this include severe weather emergencies such as a lightning storm or tornado, or the presence of a hostile intruder. These preparations and procedures provide a way for occupants to make a building as safe as possible until the emergency passes or additional help arrives. Shelter in place is intended for short periods of time and in most cases should not last more than a few hours. Severe weather may include heavy thunderstorms, high winds, lightning, hail, tornadoes, and earthquakes. In most cases, advance warnings will help us prepare. Remain calm and stay away from windows and doors. In a severe thunderstorm or when there is lightning, employees and visitors should use caution when moving about or operating electrical equipment or the telephone. You should remain inside until the danger has passed. Tornadoes are common in Virginia and may occur throughout the state at any time of year with little or no warning. Knowing what to do when seconds count can save lives. First, learn the terms that are used to identify a tornado. A tornado watch is up to 6 hours notice and means that a tornado is possible in the area. You should monitor weather alert radios and local radio and TV stations for information. A tornado warning gives less than a 1 hour notice. It means that a tornado has been sighted in the area or has been indicated by National Weather Service Doppler radar. If a warning is issued, listen to the advice of the local officials and take shelter immediately. Move to a pre-designated shelter inside the building. If you do not know where this is, ask your supervisor. Stay away from outside walls, doors, and windows, and take a kneeling position with your hands covering your head and neck. If you happen to be outdoors, get into a ditch or low-lying area. Lie in a flat, low spot and cover your neck and head. Watch for flash flooding. If you are in a car, get out of the car and go inside a sturdy building or find an overpass to get underneath. Remain in the designated area until the danger has passed. Accurate predictions of the time and place of an earthquake are not yet possible. The earthquake may range in intensity from a slight tremor to great shocks and may last for a few seconds to as much as 5 minutes, but the warning will probably be the rattling of the windows. How you will respond in an earthquake will depend on your location at the time it hits. If inside the building, you will want to drop, hold on, and cover. Move to the nearest safe place, which may be taking cover under a sturdy desk or table, or bracing yourself in an inside corner of the room or in the doorway. Keep in mind that it is extremely dangerous to leave any building during an earthquake because you may be injured by falling objects. Fatalities often occur when people exit buildings and run. Also, remember to stay away from windows. A window can shatter with enough force to injure you even if you are several feet away. You will also want to protect your head and face with any available material around. If you are outdoors at the time of an earthquake, you should stay outdoors, but move away from tall buildings, structures, and trees. Also, stay away from power lines, as they may appear to be dead, but may suddenly re-energize as automatic restoration of power is attempted. Also, do not lift any power lines, and if possible, proceed to an open area. If you are in a vehicle, pull over and stop, making sure to remain clear of overpasses, tall buildings, structures, and trees. Stay in your vehicle as it will provide some protection from falling and flying debris. An earthquake can be a very scary thing, although it is a normal reaction to want to run outside once the shaking has stopped. Keep these important points in mind before evacuating. Do not rush outdoors. Many people are injured in this way when struck by falling debris. Do not use the elevator and warn others not to use it because a power outage may occur after the quake has stopped in your immediate area. Check for injuries or people who are trapped. Follow emergency procedures for medical emergencies and building evacuation. Use extreme caution when exiting the building. Be on the lookout for aftershocks. If you feel an aftershock, crouch down, hold on, and cover your eyes. An aftershock may occur up to several months after an earthquake. Receiving a bomb threat phone call can be a traumatic experience to anyone and potentially disruptive to the target premises. In fact, 99.9% of all telephone bomb threat calls do not involve the placement of a real bomb, although it is reasonable to assume that the main intent of all but a few callers is to disrupt business by causing work stoppages and the evacuation of the building's occupants. We still must treat any and all threats as if they are very real and very serious. Here are the steps to take if you are the recipient of a bomb threat. It is important that, in spite of the stress of the situation, the recipient attempt to remain calm and obtain as much information as possible. To do this, keep the caller on the phone as long as possible. In other words, do not hang up, even if you think it may be a prank. Listen carefully, Be polite and show interest. Try to keep the caller talking to learn more information. Listen to the sound of the caller's voice and any background noises for as long as possible. In stressful situations, it is normal for your mind to go blank or for there to be some confusion about the situation at hand. Use the bomb threat checklist found in the emergency action plan to help you obtain helpful information for the authorities. If your phone has a display, copy the phone number and or letters that are showing so that you may provide these to the authorities as well. If possible, write a note to a colleague to call 911, or as soon as the caller hangs up, immediately call 911 yourself. At any time during the conversation, if the caller identifies where the bomb is, make sure to let someone else know immediately so that they may begin to evacuate the location where the bomb is said to be placed. Notification to evacuate will come via email, two-way radio, and or the phone paging system. Before we cover training for the remaining emergency situations, let me preface this by saying that we do not foresee workplace violence as a high risk for our organization. It would be nice if we did not have to worry about such things. However, we live in a time in which ignoring the possibility of such incidents would jeopardize our commitment to providing a standard that ensures the safety of all employees. As a result, we must be prepared to effectively prevent, prepare for, and respond to workplace violence incidents, including an active shooter situation. Keep in mind, this training is not meant to instill fear. Rather, it is meant to get you thinking about a plan and to give you some tools to use. Remember, the more prepared we are, the more calm and confident we will be if placed with an emergency situation. When thinking about how to respond to a threatening or violent situation, it's important to discuss characteristics of potentially violent behavior. That is, some people show visible signs of violence before acting out. While no one expects you to read early warning signs to the same degree as a trained psychologist would, many signals are obvious and at least raise a red flag or warrant careful monitoring. These early signs may include verbal abuse of coworkers or harassment via phone or email, threats, threatening behavior, displays of aggression or excessive anger, a history of threats or violent acts, unusual fascination with weapons, bizarre comments or behavior, especially if it involves violent content, making jokes or offensive comments about violent acts, or significant changes in mood or behavior. If you are concerned or afraid of the actions of another employee or someone from the outside that you may fear cause you or other harm at work, let your supervisor know. Potential for violence increases if a person has made similar threats in the past or has a history of violent behavior. If a disruptive situation occurs that involves verbal abuse, sexual or racial slurs, personal insults, yelling or shouting, do not engage in the conversation by responding in a negative way. You may need to walk away or turn the situation over to a supervisor to de-escalate and reduce your interaction with the upset person. If the threat was brief and the subject has gone away, notify your supervisor. Be prepared to identify the person with name and physical description, if possible. Consider contacting the Employee Assistance Program for immediate or ongoing support. If the threat escalates and the event is considered an emergency, call 911 and provide the following information: your location, the person's behavior and physical description, the person's location and the direction of travel, what you saw, where and when it happened. Stay on the phone until you are released by the dispatcher. In the event of physically aggressive behavior, Avoid using force or restraint unless critically necessary to protect yourself. Our last topic for training is active shooter. An active shooter is defined as an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and populated area. In most cases, active shooters use firearms, and there is no pattern or method to their selection of victims. Although an active shooter incident is an extremely rare occurrence, the potential danger exists. Active shooter situations develop quickly and provide little or no warning. As a result, it is difficult to prepare for them, but developing a plan and practicing it can save lives and support the law enforcement response efforts. Upon discovery of an active shooter situation, as soon as possible, and when safe to do so, call 911. If possible, notify as many people of the situation, location, and direction of travel via email, phone, radio, or other means. There are 3 recommendations for how to respond to an active shooter situation. They are run, hide, fight. Your best option is to run. Remove yourself from the shooter's path. First, look and listen to where the threat is. If you see others fleeing from a particular area, this is a clear indication that the threat is in that area and may be coming towards you. Move away from the threat, away from the noise and commotion. After assessing the situation, there are a few precautions you should take if you determine you can safely evacuate. You should leave your personal belongings behind, have your escape route and plan in mind, keep your hands visible and your fingers spread, and comply with all law enforcement requests. If you are unable to safely evacuate the path of an active shooter, your next best option is to hide. Avoid detection and wait for law enforcement to arrive. While hiding is not as effective as evacuation, it can usually keep you safe long enough for law enforcement to arrive. Hiding can be dangerous, though, as it can leave you trapped if the shooter were to discover your location. To ensure your hiding spot is as safe as possible, please consider the following recommendations. Hide in an area out of the shooter's view. Remain low and attempt to find cover under furniture or other objects. Block entry to your hiding place with heavy furniture if possible. If there's a lock on the door, lock it. Do not unlock the door for anyone at any time. Tell the police that you will wait for them to retrieve a key to the room. Remain silent and still. Silence your cell phone or other electronic devices. Stay away from any windows. If the windows are equipped with curtains, close them. Do not leave your hiding place until you are absolutely certain law enforcement has arrived. Occasionally, in active shooter situations, evacuation and hiding are not available options, and you may find yourself face to face with the shooter. If you find yourself in this situation, your only remaining option is to take physical action against the shooter in hopes of incapacitating them or disarming them. Your last resort is to fight back. This should be considered an extreme last resort, and only if your life is in imminent danger. If you decide attacking the shooter is your only option, consider the following. There's no single procedure that can be recommended in this situation. Attempt to quickly overpower the individual with force in the most violent manner possible. Act with physical aggression. Throw items to distract, disorient, or disarm the shooter. Yell and wave your arms to startle the shooter. If you're with other people, you should work as a collective group to overcome the shooter. Another important thing to keep in mind during an active shooter incident is responding to law enforcement and other first responders who arrive to the scene. Keep in mind that law enforcement is trained to locate and stop the shooter above all else. This means they will not stop to treat or help evacuate any injured people. They will also not escort people out of the building until they have identified and stopped the shooter. This means if you are in a concealed area, remain there until law enforcement personnel indicate that the shooter is apprehended or killed. Follow these instructions. Raise hands and spread fingers. Keep hands visible at all times. Avoid making quick movements. Avoid pointing, screaming, or yelling. Proceed in the direction from which officers are entering the premises. This concludes the Emergency Action Plan training. Thank you for watching. Remember to refer to the written Emergency Action Plan frequently. The more prepared you are, the more likely you will be to remain calm, feel confident in your ability to react to the situation appropriately, and help others. Please stay tuned for announcements throughout the year regarding drills to practice evacuations and shelter in place. Thank you.